what do voters in your state need to hear tonight, the messaging from Chicago that will make them vote Harris-Walz?
Well, I think you're right. Michigan is the key state, could be the key state. What they're looking for, number one, is a ticket in Kamala Harris and Tim Walz that has the same American experience that so many of us in the Midwest have had. Growing up in, modest circumstances, having to work hard in order to make their way in life, and then reaching back and allowing other folks to have that same opportunity. So it's around access to an affordable home, what Vice President Harris has already talked about in terms of a program to provide additional support for those people who don't currently own their own home, to give them a chance to do that. But also some of the policies that are already in place that we are going to defend, the right of a woman to make their own reproductive health care decisions. Those are the sorts of messages that the people I represent want to hear. Some reassurance that they understand the struggles of American working families and are going to do something about it, and that we're going to protect the freedoms that so many people have worked so hard to secure for us. The energy is good, and the policies, I think, are more aligned with the American people. We just need to see and hear that.
Well, and as we talk about what your constituents in particular and the people of Michigan want to hear, we have heard a lot about that notion of freedom and kind of these broad strokes ideas. But given we're only 75 days out from this election, do those people not deserve more specifics at this time? Does she need to get granular on that stage tonight?
Well, it's pretty specific to know that one party supports a woman's right to make their own choices about when and whether to have a family, and another party wants to take that right away. That's really specific. But when it comes to these broad issues, there will be a chance to roll out the specific policies. But let's face it, these conventions, these campaigns are largely about the values and the direction that the country will go. Do we have a candidate and a potential administration that recognizes that everybody ought to have a chance to own a home? Yes. And so there will be time for us to roll that out, but it is not the case that these conventions have become policy seminars. They're about the direction that the country will take, number one, and secondly, a measure of the people seeking these high offices, a measure of their character, of their values, of their life experiences. Because when we're electing a president and a vice president, we're electing more than just an automaton who can spit out policy prescriptions. We'll get those, but we're electing people. Mm-hmm. And what people want to see, voters want to see, is somebody who gets them, who understands them, who respects them. And I think there's a real distinct difference between the two parties on those questions.
Congressman, last night was all about introducing Governor Tim Walz, someone you know better than most people ever will. And I wonder what it is as they introduce Kamala Harris's running mate to the nation, as he introduces himself, what you want people to know about Tim Walz, other than the flannel shirts, which I understand are real.
They really are. What I want people to know is that the guy they saw on stage last night is the same guy who's been my friend for the last 12 years. He's as authentic as they come. That's Tim Walz. And he's like your neighbor. He's like the guy who, when you move into the neighborhood, he comes over with a plate of cookies for you. That's how I felt when I arrived in Congress. He'd been there a few years before I did. So what you get with him is the genuine article, nothing phony. And I think people are looking for that. Folks want to turn the page away from this sort of dark, negative, narrow, angry form that the political scene has taken in America. And I can't think of a better breath of fresh air to help make that happen than the selection of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.